Terry Vanderheiden here. I'm going to show you how I convert my images from color to black and white. I'm using a program called Tonality Pro, and it works right out of Lightroom, works out of Photoshop as well. So we can just go right into Lightroom here and go into Edit and go down to Tonality Pro, and that's going to bring up the program. We'll change our file format to PSD and our resolution to 300. Hit Edit, and this image will come up over here in Tonality Pro. So here's the neat thing about this program. As you bring images in, you can deal with them on layers and do individual effects on the image and build as you go. Let me show you how that works. So these panels over here, these are all things that you can do to the image, and we'll get into just a few of these today. And again, I'm doing an executive portrait here, so I want to make sure that it fits in these categories. So as we click on layers, you'll see here we've got our first layer, and the first thing we're going to do is deal with when an image comes into a black and white program. A lot of times it's kind of flat and a little bit boring. So we're going to take our tone and increase the contrast. So we increase the contrast here, we bring the highlights up a little higher, maybe lower the midtones, and maybe lower the shadows. And now we're getting a pretty decent contrast here. We can turn our little eyeball off inside this layer to see what we've done, or use the slider to slide down our work. We're going to go into clarity and structure, add a little bit of clarity, add a little bit of structure, and a little bit of microstructure. Now we look and see, and also you can use the eyeball up here and get an overall view and see what we've done. And now it's starting to look pretty good. So the neat thing about this program is you have the ability to do things in layers, like I mentioned earlier. So we're going to now do some work on just the eyes. So the way we do that is we go into layers, and we click plus, and we're going to add ourselves a new layer. Here we'll go into tone, and we're going to brighten it up. Now I'm just working on just the eyes. Now the whole image is changing, but I'll show you how we deal with that in just a second. We'll go into structure and get a little bit more detail out of those irises. When somebody has light eyes, you can bring out the detail a little bit better in them. And so overall, you can see that this is starting to look a little intense. But what's great here is we go up to the brush tool, click on the brush, and now, let's zoom up just a little bit more. Now we have the brush tool, and whenever you start using the brush tool, it assumes you want a layer mask, which I think is pretty slick. So as you paint, we're painting in just the effects where we've painted, just like you would with a layer mask. See how that works? We can turn that off and on. And we've gone a little bit excess over here, so we can go over to the eraser tool and just erase that back. And now when we turn this off and on, we can see that we've brightened the eyes. Okay? Next thing we're going to deal with is the teeth. A lot of times in a black and white image, the teeth come over kind of gray, and we need to brighten those up a little bit. So we're going to add a new layer here. And in the new layer, we're going to increase the exposure, increase those highlights up a little bit. And now again, we're going to use the same technique. We're going to go to the brush tool. As soon as you click and start painting with the brush, it knows you want a layer mask, which is fantastic. So we can go in and paint over the areas that you want to work in. So we're just dealing with just the teeth right here. So now as we zoom back, we can take a look at what we've got, and we can say, wow, it looks great. Well, actually the teeth and eyes look way too bright. But each of these layers are on their own slider. So we can go to the teeth and just lower the slider to a point where they look natural. And you can go off and on with the layer eyeball. Same with the eyes here. We'll do that back just a little bit so they're not quite so intense. Very nice. So now we're looking like it's starting to look pretty good. So the next thing we're going to do is deal with some structure and tone of the hair. So we're going to, again, make a new layer. We're on layer 3 now. And we're going to go into our tone and just bring up our exposure. Now all we're dealing with here is the hair. So we don't have to really concern ourselves with anything else, but this is the area that we're trying to fix. So we're going to see if we can't brighten that up, sliding up the midtones, sliding up the shadows a little bit. Now we've got some detail in here. We can go down to our structure add a little bit more structure, maybe some microstructure. And you can see the skin is starting to get too detailed and a little too raw. But again, we're just going to work with just the hair here. So we go in, grab our brush, and as soon as we start painting on that layer, it knows, hey, they want to make a layer mask. So we can just paint in just the hair, and that will bring in some detail inside of the hair. And the key here is when you're working with this, is to go a little bit excessive, because you have the ability, which is really cool, you have the ability to go in and either erase out areas that you don't like, or you can take and just take the slider back down, which is what we're going to do right here. So we're going to slide this slider down. There we go. So now we've got some detail in the hair that we didn't have before, and it's starting to look pretty good. So we're going to do another thing here, and this is going to involve us adding a new layer. You can see that I'm doing the same thing over and over again, but that's my workflow of how we do it. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take and bring up our exposure, because I want to increase this side rim light that we've got on the side of his face. And I'm going to go into clarity, move up clarity a little bit of structure, a little bit of microstructure. And again, we're going to do the same thing. Grab that brush and just use a soft brush and paint this side of his face. And we can go in with our eraser tool and take out any of the areas that we overdid. Maybe right here. And now you can start seeing we've created this contrast in the image. And it might be a little intense, and we can slide it down, but that'll give you an image here that allows you to have a little bit more detail, a little more contrast in how we're doing this. So lastly, what we want to do is create a vignette, and this is a pretty fun way to do it. This program really has a great set of vignettes here. So again, we add a new layer. We're on a brand new layer here, and then we just collapse these little panels until we get to, or we can slide down here and get to vignette, and we take our vignette and darken it down. So what's a really neat effect here with this is we can create the size however we want to have, how much vignette we want, what kind of feather we want, how we want to do that. But also has a place center button, so you click on that and we can place that center right there, which makes more sense than just the center of the image, and allow us to get the vignette that we want. And again, you have the ability to pull that vignette out or leave it all the way in, or some level of it, because each one of these layers has that control. So I really like that about this program. So now all we do is we hit apply, and it processes the image and throws it back into Lightroom for us. All right, so we're back in Lightroom, and you can see the difference between the color here and the black and white. And we have the ability to have it right back into Lightroom where we can deal with it. And now we've got a decent black and white that we can use for our for publication. Give it a try, Tonality Pro. It's a pretty cool program.